All right, Fresh, let's go to the Pac-12 After Dark. This game is at 10:30 at night on Fox. Late night for Fox. It's
Late
kind of
night for
shocking.
Fox.
But the USC Trojans, after that loss to Washington at home, travel up to Oregon, and Oregon has been shellacking people since losing to Washington. Spread for this game is 16.5 points. It's a lot of points up there in Eugene because USC still got the offense. They can't defend a single person, but they still got the offense. What do you think?
Well, first off, Lincoln Riley, great job. Way to finally fire Alex Grinch. Now, we don't want to see people get fired very often, but that guy has been holding you down and holding you back for a long time. He ruined you, kind of held you back at Oklahoma, definitely held you back here at USC. You finally made the right decision and told him to, take an exit stage left and leave out there in Hollywood. Will that inspire the defense to grow up here? This will like give a little fire, maybe they'll play a little extra, pace. Who knows? Because I think the players are still the players, and the coaches outside of him are still going to be there. But changing that direction, showing for a future, is something you had to do. And at some point, that defense might actually become somewhat of a reliable source for the USC Trojans. But right now, currently, it isn't, and it won't be on Saturday, and it probably won't be the rest of the season. Utah is the only team since September 30th to score less than 35 on Tennessee. On USC, excuse me. Utah is the only team since September 30th to score less than 35 points on USC. And Utah scored 3? 34? This is just terrible defense from USC. They are horrible. Can't tackle. They can't stop anybody in coverage. They can't get to the quarterback. They might get some sacks in garbage time, but they're not getting the sacks when they actually matter in big games. You bring in all the transfers you want. Bring in Barry Alexander last year. There's been no difference makers. They have no plan on defense, and they can't execute. And as great as Caleb Williams is, and I really feel bad for him in his Heisman campaigns. Now he's not going to repeat. And seeing his dream sort of fade. You have to have a balanced football team in college football these days, folks. You cannot just be all one. You can't just be all defense and have no offense. Look at Iowa. And you can't be all offense and no defense. Look at USC. You have to find somewhat of a comparable approach to both sides of the ball because there's too much talent, too many great coaches out there across the country. They're going to find ways to get by. You've got to have better players on both sides of the ball and better schemes and people to address attention to detail and execute on game day. USC, they're finally learning their lesson. They were able to skate through a pretty easy schedule last year, and this year it's caught up with them. And now you're finally getting your first meeting against Dan Lanning. And the reason why Dan Lanning was brought to Oregon was to face Lincoln Riley and USC. And with a lot on the line right now, I got a feeling it's going to be a pretty rude welcome to Autzen Stadium for the Trojans. Why I say that is that right now, Oregon has only beaten one team that has a winning record as of right now. They might have been 1-0 back in the day or 2 or whatever, but as of this point right now, the only team that they've beaten that had a winning record as we currently stand right now through week 10 is Utah. So they need to add some beef to their resume, and they have to go out and beat a team with a winning record, and that's USC. And if they don't, then Oregon's a fraud. So you have to come out here. They're going to put their foot down. They know they have to get some style points. And honestly, with not many people watching, it's going to be a 10:30 kick on Fox. Most people will probably be in bed by halftime. So you're going to come out rocket fired, get yourself some points, light up the scoreboard so that it's 35 or 38 to nothing by halftime. People go to bed. They're like, man, Oregon looked really great. And then they wake up and they pick up their phone the next morning and see, Oregon beat USC 65-3 or 65-10 or whatever it might be. And you see that when you pull up your box score in the morning on Sunday morning, you're going to realize, man, they dominated them. That's the shock factor you have to have if you're Oregon to make yourself really put yourself in a viable spot to make that jump potentially in top 4 if someone slips up here in the next couple of games. But you have to beat USC. You've got to set the tone, and you've got to do it with some shock and awe to really grab that attention and put it down. If you don't dominate USC and destroy that defense, they're going to have questions about you and if you've actually truly beaten anybody because you obviously lost to Washington, and if you're truly a worthy team or you're just playing a mediocre schedule. So there's a lot at stake right now. Now the Pac-12 has been absolutely fantastic. There's tons of competition. Oregon still has, Oregon State down the road. They potentially have a Pac-12 title game. But being USC is is a name recognition win for anyone across the country who might not truly pay attention to Pac-12. And if you come out there and you blow them out and you do it with a big score, it's going to grab people's attention and really get them focused. As we learned from the committee tonight, as they release their rankings, in some cases it's like they're not even watching the games; they're just looking at the box score. So this will actually help your case if you go out there and light up the Trojans. Caleb, you've been shouldering it all by yourself. I truly, I will give you utmost respect. You and that USC offense have done all you can. Keep trying to chug it through. You're going to get a big challenge from Oregon's defense. Allison's going to be allowed. It's going to be raucous. You're going to have to be able to stem the tide. You've played in big games. You're going to have to manage your emotions and manage the down and distance, and do not turn the ball over. Do not give the Ducks a chance. Look what happened. Granted, it was Colorado, but look what happened when Colorado went up there in September. They walked in, they talked a bunch of trash, and they got the trash knocked out of them. They got jumped. They had no idea what that hit them. They did not respect Alton Stadium, and that was basically a noon kickoff. This is going to be a 7:30 local time, 10:30 Eastern. They're going to be partying all day long, and they're going to be ready for a big one. If you have to come out there and you have any chance at pulling up an upset, you're going to have to be dynamic. You might actually have to do it by yourself. So go out there, be a leader, inspire your team, and try to just give it all you got. It could be a statement win because right now you're the underdog. I think, honestly, for the first time in your career at USC, you are the underdog. You have a chance of going out there and pulling off an upset when, as the past couple of weeks, nobody truly gives you a chance. That means you have to play within the system. You've got to be calm and collected. Your receivers got to be on the same page. Your offensive line's got to play, and your defense has got to give you at least an ounce of effort. Maybe even just one turnover to knock Bo Nix off his game for a little bit to keep you involved. But you have to play as a full unit, and you can't play split. There's been times you watch in sports where, especially in football, maybe the offense is doing all the work and the defense, for lack of a better term, it sucks, or vice versa. And the other side of the ball, they start getting pissed at their comparable group. Like, you guys never score for us. What's going on? Why do I have to keep playing? And vice versa. If that right there is complete separation of a football team, and that's where it all falls apart, and that's where teams quit by the second quarter if things start falling apart. If you can rally together and keep yourself involved, you at least can fight through 4 quarters and show you're a true football team and a true program. That means you're a leader. It means the team is ready to play because you're all going to have to be together. You're in a hostile environment there up in Oregon. You're going to have to come together and play it hard and leave it all on the field to beat this Oregon team. The other side, Bo Nix, Franklin, the whole squad, Dan and Lanning, this is your statement game right here. If you want to get that revenge game versus Washington, you've got to come out here and take down USC, and you've got to do it in amazing fashion. Right now, you're in the top 6. You're in the conversation. Things are looking great. But to really make that next impression, you've got to go out here and dominate. Washington, they've been able to survive ever since they beat you. They haven't looked amazing, but they've been able to handle stuff and get it done. Can you go out there and maybe put up a big number and flip the narrative? Maybe look, hey, you know what? We were actually the better team in that game. We just didn't come out of it. We want that rematch, and we actually deserve a 4 spot. You have to get that chance done, and that starts with USC. Go out there and execute. Dan Lanning, he's coached for under Nick Saban. He's coached under Kirby Smart. He knows what it takes to win, but now we need to start him putting together the wins against ranked teams that are against winning opponents in big time games. That's where you have to start developing that program and taking that next step. Can Dan Lanning and that Oregon Ducks team do that? They did it versus Utah. They look great. I want to see, can they do it versus USC, and so on and so forth. The games only get bigger from here. You have a lot at stake. Execute. Run the football. Bo Nix, go out there and be special. You're still in the Heisman consideration. This could be your Heisman moment, so get it done. In the end, I think the over is hidden, and I think the Ducks are going to go out there and they're going to actually dominate USC. So much for my rah-rah speech. It's not going to be enough for the Trojans. The Ducks will win by 30. Ducks will dominate.
So, Fresh, both these teams to me have a lot to play for. Oregon needs to continue to build their case. Like you said, they only got one win over a team with a winning record so far this season. And Bo Nix is desperately trying to keep his name in the Heisman conversation. He needs a big game, especially against a team like USC, because he's only going to have a handful of more opportunities to kind of get to that point the rest of the season. You know, you take a look at the rest of their schedule, no one's going to really tune into that Arizona State game. And then you got the Civil War. So this is the game where Bo Nix can make his case of whether or not he gets an invite to New York or not. On the reverse, excuse me, on the reverse for USC, USC actually can still make the Pac-12 title game, as crazy as this sounds. If, remember, the Pac-12 takes the top two teams. If USC goes into Eugene and beats Oregon, they will be in a four-way tie, depending on what another game works out with. But let's say a four-way tie with Oregon, Oregon State, Arizona, and Utah. They have a head-to-head win against Arizona and against Oregon. They don't play Oregon State this year, but if Oregon were to lose to Oregon State, they would then not have the better conference record. So you would anticipate that Oregon's going to beat Oregon State. Then on top of that, Utah's playing Washington this week in Washington. So you kind of think, okay, there might be another loss for Utah. USC only has one more game. Like, people forget that because USC played in week 0, that they have an opportunity because they only got to play UCLA in 2 weeks from now. And then they're off until the Pac-12 title game. Lincoln Riley, there's your speech. There's your thing to get your defense motivated. Like, listen, we played like junk all year long. People are making fun of us. People are gashing us all up and down the sidelines there. We've lost to our first rival, Notre Dame. When it's come to a big game, we haven't been able to get done. You know what will make a lot of your fan base forget those things? Going into Oregon and winning that football game. If you go into Oregon and beat Bo Nix and this whole offensive, this Bucky Irvine, Troy Clifford Franklin, my favorite wide receiver, all of these guys, it's going to make a huge statement. Oregon, you're playing for your college football playoff committee life. Like, it would be very easy to be like, oh, USC has lost all this stuff, and they have 3 losses on the year. Man, that Trojan team, that's getting to be a very dangerous team right now because they don't have a whole lot to play for. And if you start saying like, hey, we could be spoilers now, yeah, that conference title game's a heck of a lot of things to play for. And remember, the Trojans only got to be good one time, so you got that going for you. So I don't know, Fresh. I really don't. Listen, everything says Oregon should win this game. Everything, every metric, everything. I just think that this is going to get close. I think it's going to be closer than the point spread. I think it's going to be closer than what a lot of people think it's going to be. But in the end, I just don't think USC's got the defense to stop them. I think Lincoln Riley is going to take a very long look in the mirror after this season. I think that seat's going to get really hot, but I still think he's going to be okay there in Hollywood. But give me the Ducks, but I'm actually would be willing to take USC in the points in this game. High scoring game, though.
Oh, no
16 and
doubt
a
that
half's a lot.
I think that over is going to be destroyed.
Oh, yeah. Over's going to come in big time. Over under set at 73 and a half. All right, Fresh. As I'm sipping on my tea here and trying to make it through this here.